You're listening to Gospel Reign, where the truth, authority, and power of God's Word take center stage. Join Dr. Matt and Dr. Micah as they dive deep into the great doctrines of the Christian faith, explore how the gospel transforms our world today, and reflect on the stories that shape our walk with Christ. We hope you enjoy this week's episode of Gospel Reign.
Well, welcome back to the Gospel Reign podcast. We are here in an interview kind of setting around the table with our very own Pastor John Longworth, one of our pastors on staff at Germantown Baptist Church. And I just got to tell you, since we started this podcast, this is one of these interviews I'm looking forward to. Not simply because of content, probably not as much for content, but just because it's John.
Aw.
Everybody loves John Longworth. Well,
Little comic relief.
comic relief. Sarcasm, a king of sarcasm.
It's my spiritual gift.
That is, we know. Well, we at Germantown Baptist Church love John Longworth. He is our pastor of equipping and pastoral care here. And he does a fantastic job, well known by the people of GBC for a lot of reasons. Not the least of which you just happen to have been here the longest out of all of our pastors, which is an incredible feat in itself, knowing how long you've been here and some of that story. We'll get into a little bit of that, kind of what's going on with you in the last bunch of years that you've been here at GBC. But well known, you are the face at GBC of GBC in 93. If you don't know what that is, you're new to our podcast or you don't attend Germantown Baptist Church. We have a way during our worship services that we introduce kind of the happenings of our church week to week. And we do that in the worship service in a video kind of setting, and it's called GBC in 93. And you guessed it, it is 93 seconds. And it is somewhere around 93 seconds, depending on how fast or slow the clock runs. Just depends. But John is the face of that and well known here at GBC for that and many other things. So anyway, this is going to be a good conversation. It'll be fun. So
Can I just say, though, that if I'm the face of anything,
that's
that's
bad.
bad.
It's bad.
There's a problem there somewhere.
That's really bad. Yeah, that's probably true. All right, so let's get into kind of a conversation. We got a lot of questions we want to throw at Pastor John, just so people can get to know you if they don't know you. This is one of the great things about this podcast is when we interview somebody like this, people know you from a church setting, but may not know you personally, may not know some things about you and your calling or your testimony, those kind of things that you don't really have an opportunity to share with people outside of a setting like this. So this is a lot of fun. This will give our church members maybe some insight into who is John Longworth. So this will be a good conversation.
So born in 1926, tell us about your childhood.
It's just a few years after that, but you're not far off.
Yeah. Well, tell us your testimony. Tell us not just your salvation testimony, just a little bit about your family. Please don't give us your whole life story. We don't know we don't want to know the whole thing, but give us some high points about growing up, where you're from, and then your salvation testimony.
Sure. Born in Long Beach, California, a long, long time ago. He's already given me that look, like, please don't
Come
start there
on.
and go all the
California?
way.
That's a new detail to me. I did
You
not
did not know that?
No, sir.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's
So
cool.
Dad was in the Navy for more than 30 years, and he was the primary reason that I'm who I am today. One of many, but a lot of folks have spoken into my life. But my dad is who led me to the Lord. And so I share that just as a reminder to the fathers that you have a significant influence on your children. And like a lot of little boys, I thought my dad was the greatest. And over time, I began to realize that one of the things that made him who he is was his relationship with the Lord. And so I desired that, and he walked me through the gospel, and I was saved at 9.
Wow.
Called into ministry in high school. Worked at a church in Brownsville, Tennessee when I was in college. Did that in Christian radio in my spare time. Got involved in...
Okay, hang on. Brownsville, Tennessee. I did not know this part of the story.
Zion Baptist Church in Brownsville.
Not far.
I didn't know that.
3.5
here?
years.
Not far from
It's
here.
45 minutes from here, 40 minutes from here. Something like that, yeah.
Yep.
Now, you said you did Christian radio. Did you get a degree in journalism or communications or anything like that?
Double major in communication arts and religion. unfortunately, they only allow you to put one on your diploma, so I chose communication arts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From where?
Union University.
Okay.
You know that.
I see. A lot of these details I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
But this is a good, because this is a lot of these are coming back to me. But I had forgotten about the California thing too. By the way, I had forgotten. I knew Dad was in the Navy and some of that stuff going on, but I didn't remember California. But
Yeah, we lived all over the country. Ended up going to school here in Memphis, and then college in Jackson, and then back here after about 3.5 years in broadcast communications, 10.5 years in corporate communications here in Memphis. My wife and I were members of this church for about 11 years before I joined the staff.
all right, so let's go back. Let's talk about your wonderful wife, Sandra. So,
Awesome.
in that whole story, where did y'all end up kind of meeting?
We met in the theater department at Union University.
Okay, I did know that. I forgot.
My
about that.
freshman year, I started dating a girl who was a sophomore, and sophomore, if you say that correctly.
Yeah.
And she said something along the lines of, "Hey, I'm going to try out for the fall play. Maybe you should try out for a bit part and allow us to spend a little bit more time together." And I thought, sure, why not?
Okay.
I ended up getting the male lead and was hooked.
Go
And
for it.
Participated in a lot of shows at Union through the years, 20-something,
Really?
over the course of 4 years. So Sandra and I met there, and the rest is history.
Well, I'll be dog.
She
That's
fell
very
madly in love with me.
Okay. I would assume no other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all got married, and then so kind of walk us back through that again. So y'all got married after Union?
After she graduated.
Okay, after she graduated. And then you moved from there into broadcast journalism. You went into that immediately out of Union University?
Yes. So I'm a year ahead of her in school. So
Okay.
I was already working as a television news reporter and anchor at the ABC affiliate in Jackson.
Oh, which was what? What were your call letters? Is that what you call them?
WBBJ, News Center 7.
In Jackson. Okay.
Did you do weather, John?
I was one of those guys that did a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I was a midday anchor and reporter. When the main anchors were gone at 6 or 10, or if the sports guy was out, or if the weather guy was out, I filled in for them. So, yeah, I've done a little bit of everything.
Wow.
And see, who would have known all those years ago that was setting you up for GBC 93?
Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thought?
I always thought you had a face for radio, but actually it was TV. It was TV. So
Did you know our pastor was not very nice?
Just taking
I told you
damage
that.
on the
I'm telling
Gospel Ray podcast.
sarcasm. Okay. Well, I receive it quite a bit from you, John. So I'm just trying to give it a little bit.
Can I tell you how we ended up here, though? In the
Yeah, please
Memphis
do,
area?
because we're getting there. Yes. So go ahead.
Sandra was serving as an admissions counselor for Union University. I was working in television. She got a call from her high school principal. Her degree is in English. She's a teacher. And so she was offered a job working for her high school principal at a school here in Memphis. Well, she told me about it, not thinking anything would come of it. And I, after some prayers, said, I think the Lord might be leading us to do that. The problem was I didn't have a job here. But I was confident that I'd be able to get one and felt like the Lord was leading. So I said, let's move to Memphis. I'll find a job there, and you work for your high school principal. So that's what we did.
So
that was
did
a
y'all
big step of faith
That is
back
a
in the
big
day.
step.
completely? Did y'all have a connection to Germantown Baptist Church, or when you came to Memphis, you were kind of looking around, I assume?
That was the intent. Her mom is a member of our church and was at that time. And so she came to me with the prospect of visiting here just to spend some time with her mom.
Sure.
And my response, I grew up in small churches and served at a small church and knew that I was not going to like it here. So I just flat out told her, we'll go visit, but I'm not going to like it, and we're not going to be members of Germantown Baptist Church. And
Famous last
37 years later, here we are.
You stuck.
We stuck.
You stuck. Okay. So you get to Germantown Baptist Church as a member.
Right, working
right.
in corporate community. So about 2-3 months after, I got a job in corporate communications.
Okay.
So that's what was going on.
Working for who?
A
in
private
Memphis?
security company,
Okay.
the 5th largest in the nation,
Okay.
doing corporate newscast for them, training videos, client spotlights, account spotlights, a lot of video production, that type of thing.
Okay. Okay. So then fast forward at some point, somewhere in there. So you said this earlier. You sensed a call to ministry early, though.
Yep.
So was all this? I'm kind of getting a little personal. So was all this corporate communication stuff and broadcasting, journalism, all that? Was that you running from a call to ministry, or was that you not knowing what that path is going to look like? Tell me about that.
I don't know that it was running from a call to ministry. It was me walking through doors that had been opened and felt like it was the right thing at the time. Over a period of time, though, having worked in corporate communications, and we served in a variety of ways here. I taught Sunday school classes, students. We coached soccer teams before we even had kids of our own. I was involved in our media ministry, just, plugged in like any other church member would be. And but over a period of time, I began to realize that I was not living up to my calling and struggled with what to do about that. Thought about seminary and maybe putting out resumes, thinking with my experience at the time, I would have been a good media pastor. So spent a couple of years just kind of searching, but not really doing anything about it. And I had a list of my strengths and weaknesses and where I thought the Lord could use me. I'm a planner, as you know. And so I had my list and was working from that. And one evening in a prayer time, I just tore up that list and said, God, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. I just want you to know I'm available and I'll do whatever you're wanting me to do and go wherever you want me to go. Tore it up, went to bed, and just felt a sense of relief, a peace that I hadn't had before. Part of that prayer, though, was to say, I'll do whatever, I'll go wherever, but it would be really cool if you would just kind of make it obvious so I don't miss what you're asking me to do. The next morning, I'm walking into my office in downtown Memphis. The phone rang. I walked through the door, answered the phone, and it was the recreation pastor at the time. He said, John, you may think I'm crazy, but have you ever considered serving in recreation ministry? And my response was, yes, I do think you're crazy, and no, I haven't. But let me tell you how the Lord's been working in my life. And so over a period of a few months, we had several conversations, and long story, just as long, I ended up as the associate pastor of recreation here.
So my question is, sorry, Pastor, did you wrestle through kind of thinking, well, I'm educated and I'm skilled in kind of media, and did GBC have a media team at that time?
We had a team, fell under worship parts, but we didn't have our own communications department the way that we have now. It looked a little bit different at the time.
Because I could see where, man, that's awesome. Lord, I feel like you're opening a door for recreation, but I'm kind of got the media background going for me. So it's almost like I'm in a new venture, which is awesome. I'd love to hear that story. But some people, I've wrestled with that. I spent, 7 years in publishing, and I thought, what am I doing, and God had a purpose and a plan in all of it, and I loved it, but didn't see it coming. I would have seen something very different. So probably people listening to our show find themselves in that, or they may be in a career right now where I know I'm doing what the Lord wants me to do, but it seems like he's leading me into something else, and that's not making a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was. And when I met with the personnel committee, it's always, I might tear up talking about this, but there was an elderly lady. At the time, I thought she was elderly, and she got to be a whole lot older than that later. But you know how the folks sitting around the table in a personnel committee meeting might try to ask a gotcha question? Well, there was a gentleman who I felt like his purpose behind the question was to kind of catch me and, something. But he said, have you ever done anything that, or is there anything that might come to light that would embarrass you or the church? And my response was, no, can't really think of anything. The only comment I would make along those lines is I feel like over the past 10 and a half years or so that I've worked in the corporate world, I feel like that's wasted time, that I had not lived up to my calling. I wasn't doing what the Lord had asked me to do. And this lady said, John, put her finger out like this, John, there's no wasted time with the Lord. He's been using everything that you have done in the corporate world to prepare you for what you're going to do here at Germantown Baptist Church.
Yeah.
And looking back, she was right.
Yeah.
A
That's
lot of
good.
those leadership skills, that experience, has paid off in dividends. It's been great.
That's good. Nathan, I need more of John in my ear. I got a question
You don't hear that often, do
about.
you?
No, I don't. I don't. Most people are. Please turn John off. Where's the power button? So you have said, and I've heard you talk about this before, with a call to ministry. We've had opportunity to train some guys here at our church that have maybe experienced a call to ministry or maybe experienced a call to ministry. We developed a particular training guide and material together, along with one of our other pastors. A fantastic kind of training material. But I've heard you say to them, and other times too, that or remind them that not everybody's call to ministry looks the same. Everybody's call and journey into ministry is different. Don't think for a second that since your pathway to ministry doesn't look like so and so or your pastor, this senior pastor, whatever, it doesn't look the same. It does not mean that you're not called to ministry. Everybody just has a different way of getting there, and that's generally true. It's not. There are some similarities probably among a lot of guys, but the journey to ministry you had is a whole lot different than my journey to ministry. And I just think that's critical for especially younger men out there that are considering a calling, because they may be looking at other ministers thinking, well, that's not my testimony is not like that, or my calling is not like that. And you hear all kinds. Yours is different than mine. And anyway, I just think that's very important to know your perspective on that kind of call to ministry. That's a really big deal. Do you see in your particular call to ministry, is it hard? I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. Is it hard for you, or was it hard? It's not now because I've heard you talk about it, but was it hard for you in a kind of a spirit of comparison when you kind of got into the ministry? Did you have to struggle with that? Like, man, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was called to ministry, and then I went through all this, and you talked about it as being a waste, but was that part of a struggle for you, or did you feel pretty confident in that, from the moment you got hired on here at GBC? Was that a confidence booster for you, or is that something you always struggled with?
It's probably a little bit of both. I felt confident in who I was and in my ability to accomplish things, probably ingrained in me from childhood from my parents, that understanding that, you can do whatever, and with God's leadership and his help and all of that. But yes, I felt so I served as the associate pastor of recreation for a couple of years before becoming recreation pastor. And when I stepped into the role as recreation pastor, I was following somebody who was very outgoing, very gregarious, could make everybody laugh, very relational. And I thought, I can't be that guy. I can't do those things. I can't relate to the members of the church the way he does. And honestly, for a couple of months, I struggled with that big time. And then you think it would be self-evident, but, as pastors, we struggle just like everybody else. And I began to realize I'm not called to be him. I'm called to be the best version of me that I can be. I'm called to be what the Lord's prepared me to be and is leading me to be. And even that changes over a period of time. We go through seasons in ministry. And I began to gain more confidence when I realized I didn't have to be him. The Lord didn't call me to be him. He called me to use my skills, my experiences, my gifting to lead in that season, in that ministry. And so that was a relief to know that I didn't need to compare myself to somebody else. I just had to be me. And now the church has had to put up with that for a very long time.
Yeah. This is a good side conversation. I didn't mean to get off into this because I'm just really interested. So now you've gone a long time in pastoral ministry. Now, even in pastoral ministry this long, do you still have those feelings at all? Does that spirit of comparison ever kind of raise up in you? Or are you kind of a confident, I don't mean overconfident, that's not what I'm trying to say, but are you pretty confident guy. Like, I am who I am, and God's made me this way, and I don't have any issues with that anymore.
Again, that's a little bit of both, I would say. So on the one hand, I am confident in who I am, and I don't feel like I have to impress anybody. I'm not concerned about any of that and haven't been for a very long time. But that comparison still sneaks in every once in a while. For example, lately there are a few of us that have been working on a particular project. 3 of those folks are PhDs. I don't have that degree. I feel like I'm in a group of men that I don't belong. I don't have anything to offer. But then when I step back, I think, well, yeah, I don't have the education that they do, but there's still a little bit that I bring to the table, and I can help with this project. So yeah, that comparison does sneak in every once in a while, and you feel like, am I really adequate? You know, should I be doing this? Could somebody else do it better? And I think at the end of the day, probably any of us could say, yes, there's somebody out there that can do what we're doing better.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
God just chooses to use us.
And you bring a lot to the table, by the way. I'll clarify that. Not just a little bit. You bring a lot to the table. Regardless of that PhD thing, you bring a lot of wisdom, a wealth of experience, knowledge, relational ability, relational capital with people, an ability to relate within a team, and your servant attitude. I could go on and on. You bring a lot to the table when it comes to that. So if that spirit of comparison is ever maybe an issue for you on our kind of pastoral team, I hope that that's not the case, because you do bring a tremendous amount, which is why the people of GBC love you so much, and our team loves you and respects you so much. And the reason I haven't asked you to leave a long time ago. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
We talk a lot about imposter syndrome, you know.
Yeah.
And that comparison, it's a booger. It really can be. I mean, because you look at our team, I guarantee any of our pastors who sit here would say, "Man, I wish I could be like this, or I wish I could do that."
Yeah.
And part of that is, and I like this conversation, because being comfortable in your own skin as a person, that how God made you, how you're driven, your experiences set you up for ministry is unique, and they're all unique. You know, we even down to personality quirks, and we all have them, and we make fun of each other for a lot of these things. But
Yeah, we do.
some of those things are very insightful, and we've had, even just you and I have had the chance to recognize in each other the way in which we would approach a particular issue. And we've had this conversation before, man, I didn't see it that way. I could have never did. I couldn't have done what you did and how you did that. You led through that. And I'm just amazed. And then, well, yeah, but you did it this way, and I would never think to do it that way. And it was like a blessing. I see that with you all the time.
No, yeah, all the time.
Because all the things you listed, institutional knowledge, relational capital, just time with people, time with pastors. And I mean, maybe we'll go here. You've seen how many iterations of senior pastors come in that you've had to work under, and then the pastoral landscape of this particular church that you've served has shifted. I mean, geez, how many?
Yeah, a lot of time.
How many?
What year was it you started at GBC as an associate in recreation ministry? What year was that?
July of 2000.
Okay, so here we are recording this February of 2026.
In the year of our Lord.
In the year of our Lord.
2026.
Yes. So 26 years you've been at this, specifically in Germantown Baptist Church. So that's a good question. How many senior pastors have you served with?
4 so far.
So far, I'm the 4th one. So far.
Yes.
Okay. 4 so far. But that's a host of other pastors, of other staff pastors in that amount of time. Lot of pastors in that time period.
Yeah, and I would say a lot of great men, people that I love, have loved serving with. But I will say, I love this staff. We have a good time with each other, but we take what we do seriously. What we do is important,
right?
But we recognize that we're not, and we can have fun with each other, and we can enjoy what we do. And honestly, I don't know that I would still be here if I didn't enjoy the people that I serve with and the work that I do. The opportunity to have a ministry to some extraordinary people and have a little fun along the way.
Good bit of fun.
Yeah.
I'd ask you the same question that I asked Pastor Ron when he was on the show not long ago. But when Matt comes to be senior pastor of Germantown Baptist Church, were you nervous about that in any way? I mean, because Matt didn't come from this area; he comes from outside. He wasn't groomed within the church to do that. I mean, you kind of getting to know each other along the way. But how was that transition for you? I mean, it's very interesting to hear Ron's perspective as the pastor for worship, because relationship is kind of unique, senior pastor and worship pastor. But in what you were doing, and I'm assuming there was some transition even after you came with John's role. But talk to us a little bit about when he came. How was that? And was that like, man, I don't really know. The jury's kind of out on, are we going to click together? Are we going to mesh? Is it going to be something where he's going to wipe the slate clean and whatever? How'd you feel about that?
Do tell, John. What was that like?
Honestly, I think in any transition, when you serve on staff and a new senior pastor comes on, there's always just a little bit of apprehension. You don't know what to expect. You don't know who this guy's going to be. I'm going to tell you, very selfishly, I prayed for some specific things while the pastor search was going on.
Okay.
And
Here we go.
I hesitate to say this in front of him, but I prayed for somebody that would be a good shepherd leader, somebody that would love the people of the church and serve them well. I prayed for somebody that would be humble, would exercise humility, somebody that would be a really good preacher, somebody that would lead well, would delegate well, would trust his staff, and again, very selfishly prayed that it would be somebody with a decent sense of humor.
Yeah.
And honestly, Pastor Matt, God checked all the boxes with him.
Some of those things you can only really discover those things over time.
Yeah, it takes a little while. But I will tell you this, when our pastoral staff met with Pastor Matt and Nikki that first night, and actually, I think I talked to Nikki before I talked to Pastor Matt. She made us all feel so incredibly comfortable.
She's awesome.
And he did as well.
Yeah.
And it felt like, and I'm not just puffing smoke here, it felt like family from the very beginning.
It did. And Nikki even told me that she said, we like John.
She made that decision for you.
Yes. It was perfect, too, because she immediately, when y'all had a very first conversation, she loves to poke fun. She's a lot of fun to be around, and she could tell real quickly that y'all are going to get along really well because of just a way to be able to relate, sarcasm, a little bit of humor, kind of that kind of thing, and with me too. But it was an immediate kind of connection for us with you, just in that very, because I remember there was a dinner. It was in an Italian restaurant. Y'all did not know us at all. I knew y'all better than you because I had a couple of, a few weeks at least to kind of, I was watching and paying attention to what y'all were doing for several weeks.
Kids were there? No kids?
No kids. Okay. It was the search, no. It was the pastors only.
Pastoral staff and our wives.
That's right, and our wives. And so we met together. That's right. And so we all met together, ate together. And just it's kind of weird because you're meeting together. Y'all all knew each other, and I'm the odd man out. I don't know anybody, but although I'm the odd, that's kind of a weird thing. I'm the
weird.
Odd man out, but yet I'm the potential senior pastor, and so y'all kind of feel odd, in that I'm coming in for that role. So it's kind of
and you feel odd because they all know each other.
It's a weird dynamic because I don't fit in the whole, the team and anything like that. They don't know who I am. They only found out that day, a day before, something like that, about who I was. Remember. So it's kind of a weird thing. So I remember that conversation around the table. We're all trying to, and you're just kind of feeling it out a little bit, like who can I who can I joke with? Who can I? Because you want to joke, everybody wants to laugh together, and it's kind of weird, like. But John was one of those that immediately kind of set the tone, at least for me and Nikki, to go, okay, we're comfortable around John. We're comfortable around that kind of humor,
So that's awesome. So when he came, you were still in recreation ministry,
Right.
All right. There's kind of a beautiful story about your perspective on when he came and how you presented yourself. Would you tell a little bit about that story as well?
How I presented
Something
myself?
about, did you communicate with Pastor Matt in a unique way?
Yeah. I don't remember how I got into his office, but somehow I was able to get into his office. I had a little, I don't know if it was a full sheet of paper or a Post-it note or whatever, but just put the word yes on a sheet of paper and left it on his desk. So that was my way.
With your name on it?
Yeah, I signed it.
Yeah.
So that was my way of communicating to my pastor that my yes is on the table. I'm here to serve or not, depending on circumstances, but to serve him, to do whatever he needed me to do at the time or wanted me to do.
Yeah, because when I walked into my office, I had never been in that office before, other than I went through it to see it, with the search committee that led me through it. But when I came in, like for the first time, as actually, okay, this is going to be my office, I found that yes, and there was actually about 3 of our pastors had done the same thing, and written. There was a little card. It was kind of a made it into a kind of a little tent, so it sat up on my desk, and it had just yes on it, and I looked inside of it, it was John's name. I've got that in my file somewhere.
But before I get your feedback on how you received that, where did you get that idea from? Because I think that from a senior pastor coming in, that I'd like to hear your perspective on that, because that's pretty incredible. But is that something you had read or you heard people doing that? Because that is very genuine, and man, I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of people doing that in times of transition, just saying basically my yes is on the table.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase before. I don't remember where I heard that or learned it from, but I just felt it was important to communicate to the new pastor that I wanted to be somebody that he could count on. So that was my way of doing that.
Well, I took it that way too, and pretty quickly we were able to kind of establish a relationship with each other that I felt like, where I knew he was genuine in that, because I had received that. He didn't tell anybody else that. So when I got that, I knew that was between me and him. That was not between me and everybody else.
Until now. Now everybody knows.
No, everybody knows.
The
whole
you, John, for
world.
telling everybody. So you kind of pushed into telling everybody.
I was.
Well,
it was my idea.
That I received that as, okay, that's a conversation. Although there was no conversation, but there was plenty in that. I considered that a great conversation between me and him, that I didn't even know exactly what I was going to be doing when I walked in the door. I mean, I had no idea. I had my own prayers of people I was praying for, but it helped initially coming in knowing that, okay, John and I've already got an established agreement with each other, that he's already going to trust me by saying, I'll do whatever you ask me to do. We've already got an established rapport with each other, and we didn't really even know each other. So there was kind of a hidden conversation going on between me and him early. Like, he trusts me, I already trust him. We're getting into this, what that's going to look like in the future. I didn't know yet, but I already knew that yes was.
But that disposition is it's so encouraging. Because transition. Anybody who's in you and Nikki and your family, you're in a transition.
Yeah.
By necessity, it puts everybody else in a transition, because you got to build relationships, trying to figure out work relationships, all that stuff. But to have that disposition is incredible wind in the sails for you, because it's not like you're coming in and saying, well, here's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm moving this person, I'm doing this, and this person's going to be gone.
Right.
No. He's going to get the lay of the land, build relationships, love people, establish himself in the Word, all the things.
And keep in mind, he was coming into a situation where, as a staff, we had been together without a senior pastor for
almost 2 years.
Yeah, a significant period of time.
22 months, I think.
Coming out of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had several pastors who were incredibly close in the way that we worked together, the way that we had to lead our church through a very difficult season. And so, as he said, talking about that dinner, we were incredibly close, and he was coming into that. So I can imagine how intimidating that must have been.
Yeah, it was because I understood. I came into GBC on the tail end of COVID after that was kind of wrapped up, but still everybody was kind of hadn't come back yet and all that. But they had to work really hard. And matter of fact, a lot of what I saw online was a result of them trying to hold things down. They were doing videos all the time to communicate with the church family. I got a chance to benefit from watching all those from a distance. Like, they didn't know I was watching all that. But I got a chance to see all that, and I'm getting to know them from a distance. Again, they don't know me, but I knew at that dinner I'm kind of jumping in the middle of the stream here, and I knew it was awkward for me and a little odd, but they made that so easy. I knew pastoring Germantown Baptist Church could probably be very, very difficult to do, but it wouldn't be because of them.
Yeah, that's well said.
It was not going to be because of the pastors.
That's well said. So at what point then did did you think, okay, John's yes is on the table, very effective and very fruitful ministry and recreation. I mean, some of the things that you initiated, Living Nativity, a whole host of things, sports leagues, that kind of stuff, which continue today, and they're incredible part of what we do in ministry. At what point did you think or have the idea that I think I want to switch him into a different pastoral role? And here's kind of what I'm thinking specifically for John, having built a couple of years, I guess, of a relationship with him and getting to know him. When did all that happen?
Yeah, some layers to that. And so when I came in, I learned really quickly as a senior pastor, pastoral care, when it came to funerals and visitations and all those kind of things, I knew very quickly I don't have the bandwidth for all of that. I still love it. I came from smaller churches my whole life, where when it came to pastoral ministry, I was pretty much the one doing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes not alone, but predominantly that was my role, and loved it. Well, when I got here, I realized I didn't have the bandwidth for that, and so that's one layer of it, is almost necessity. Okay, somebody has got to handle pastoral care in a way that I can't do it. It is my primary role, but I've got to figure out a way to delegate that. How do I do that? And it's sort of in all the struggle. But then also the pastors, I told them that I know they were kind of a little bit of trepidation when I came in. Is he going to kind of, like you said, wipe the slate clean and start with a new staff? What am I going to do? But I told them pretty early, look, I'd be foolish to do that.
Right.
Because you guys have been here forever. Y'all actually have relational capital that I need. And so I told them and asked them very early if they would let me, and the assumption is that they would, because I was their senior pastor, that would let me borrow on their relational capital. It's going to be credit. I'm going to have to. Would they let me use their relationships and all of that for a while to build that, because I don't have any of that, and I'm going to have that to build trust. And so they were so good at letting me kind of borrow on that relational capital. They were supporting me, defending me, loving me, promoting me before the church, all the things that a senior pastor needs when he's new. And so there were a lot of layers to that. And so when I realized, okay, I'm going to have help. Well, John already had so many of those relationships with our senior adults primarily, that I needed to be able to get into their lives, and I needed to be able to love on them and hopefully in some way be a shepherd to them. But they didn't know me either, but they knew John. And so I was going to have to be able to use that kind of relational capital. And, of course, John graciously allowed me to be able to do that. I just knew that those were some of the things. And so I went to him. I don't know, you'd have to help me, John. How long was it after I got here that I asked you to consider that role?
Those initial conversations started taking place just a few months after you got here. So we made the move about a year.
About a year after I got here. So 2022, around the summer maybe of 2022, I just sat down with John. I don't remember the whole conversation, how it went, but I just let him know I'm limited in my again, bandwidth. I've got to have help.
Mhm.
And in that particular area, I didn't want anybody else doing that one thing. And so
Yes.
John is the only one that I approached and said, "This is what I'd like for you to do. Is that I understand that would mean moving you out of recreation ministry, moving you to a different part of the church office area, changing your role altogether, changing almost everything. Would you be willing to do that?" And of course, John had already said to me when I got here, my yes is on the table. I'm willing to do whatever. So I'm interested in knowing, John, what was that transition for you like? You go from rec ministry to pastoral care. That's got to be a tough move, and because the schedule is completely different, and the responsibilities I had put on your plate were completely different, I think. So what was
Some
that?
ways.
What was that
What
like?
were senior adults a part of that as well at that point?
I was already working with senior adults.
You were.
so
Which is
we
why you
may
had
wanna
those
come back
relationships.
to that
I
a
see.
little bit later on. But in some ways, that transition was challenging. And even today, it can be challenging. But it was something that I was excited about as well. Micah, you mentioned the things that I've been able to do in recreation ministry. And not to correct you in front of all these people.
The
but
entire nation,
Yes. The
international.
we had a couple of recreation pastors before I stepped into that
Okay.
role. And so I'm not the one who came up with the idea for Living Nativity, and we were already
gotcha.
doing sports ministry and a lot of great things. I inherited much of that, but looked for ways to improve
Yeah.
on things where I could, to make things larger, to reach more people, to be creative in how we did that. So I had the great fortune of being able to step into a role where
You
we
took the
had some,
baton and ran with
where
it,
we had
yeah.
some great leadership prior
Yeah.
to that, meaning that I was able to serve alongside either as the associate or as a volunteer in the ministry through the years. So that was an exciting ministry to me and
Oh, yeah.
for me, and to be able to use sports, fitness, and recreation as a tool to break down barriers, build relationships, and advance the gospel was a lot of fun. But as I got older, and you get to a point where I've done this for
You don't
20
want to play
plus
dodgeball
years.
anymore. you know?
No, and a lot of Monday nights, Friday nights,
Yeah.
6, 8, 10-hour days on Saturdays. I was ready for a change, and so it was nice to have this opportunity, something to look forward to. But we weren't quite sure what we were stepping into, and so we were developing a ministry. There were a lot of things that we were doing with pastoral care, but it wasn't as organized.
Right.
And
It's a little
so
bit disjointed at times, yeah.
and
Which
so
is
my
a-
role was to try to put some structure to some of what we were doing.
Which is a strength of yours, John. And
It is.
I totally get it, man. I think that was a very wise and savvy move. I would have felt the same. The relational capital, understanding the people, pastoral care, which is a great conversation to have because it involves so many layers of the intentionality between how you oversee the other pastors and mobilize the other pastors for pastoral care.
Yeah, so explain that, because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know about, a lot of people at GBC don't know what that what that means.
Like you're the tip of the spear, and it kind of flows from you. But the intentionality between all of the pastors doing hospital visits or potentially, being available for funerals and weddings and all of those things that come in life stages. But yeah, speak to us a little bit about that. Was that by design, or did you just say, "Hey, pastoral care is on you now. Let's kind of organize and figure it out"?
Well, we kind of worked on it together. It was kind of like he's asking me, what do you mean by pastoral care? And I'm having to say, what do you think I mean? So
We already had a schedule that came out of the senior pastor's office previously, where different ministers were assigned on different days to be minister on call and would do
helpful.
hospital visits as part of that. So I kind of inherited that. And now, for example, today I sent all of our pastors an email to ask for their availability or to let me know when they're not available in March, and I'll take all of that. And sometimes it's like working a jigsaw puzzle, trying to figure out
Exactly.
how to plug different people in where, and make sure that we're
I actually
covered.
emailed you back, John.
You did.
Yeah, which is rare.
It is rare, but not to back the bus over you or anything.
Not at all.
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah, yeah.
But that's one of the nice things, though. Working together the way that we do, I know the rhythms of the church and how different pastors get pulled into different things.
Right.
And so having that knowledge helps me to know, for example, in certain times of the month of December, it would be foolish to schedule Ron the week going into the choir and orchestra's worship concert. Or back in the day when Living Nativity fell under me, to schedule me the week of Living Nativity. So knowing those things, summer camps, mission trips, all of those types of things, it helps me to not plug people in to just in a way that would make them feel like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders. In addition to their normal responsibilities, they're having to make hospital visits.
Yeah, so for context, for those who are not connected to GBC, so currently we have 9 pastors on our staff, and John has the the ability and the obligation now to make sure all of those pastors are scheduled in doing that kind of on-call. And we also have what we call you had to explain this because it took me forever to figure this out. And you too, by the way, I think.
I am currently
a beeper
keeper.
You are the beeper keeper? So explain that, John. Why don't we still have beepers?
We don't have beepers anymore, but we like the name because it rhymes.
Yeah,
And so we've held on to the name.
Yeah.
But the beeper keeper is the minister who is assigned for a month at a time to be available for emergency calls on nights or weekends. So anything that takes place between normal office hours, say 8 and 4:30 or 5 o'clock, the minister on call Monday through Friday would respond to those. So say somebody's in an accident and a church member is transported to the med. We'd want to be sure that we're ministering to that individual and his or her family. And so the minister on call would be the one who had an expectation that he respond to that. So somebody is scheduled, minister on call, Monday through Friday during office hours, and they make hospital visits as a part of their routine that day. And they also deal with, if they're not out visiting people in a hospital, they're going to respond to things that happen on campus. If somebody were to walk in and have a particular need, need prayer, need counseling or whatever, the minister on call would deal with that. And the beeper keeper handles the stuff after hours.
after hours. Yeah.
What happens in actuality is that our folks are going to reach out to the people that they have relationships with.
That's right.
And so oftentimes, we're dealing with senior adults, especially when it comes to health issues and hospitalizations. And so because I've been around for as long as I have, or I've had a ministry with many of them, I might get the initial call, whether I'm actually on call or not.
That's true.
Or if somebody has a special relationship with our student pastor or anybody, they might reach out to that pastor first. So it's not always the beeper keeper who responds. Sometimes I'll find out that so-and-so's in the hospital on a Saturday, and I'll just tell the beeper keeper, don't worry about that. I know I've known this guy forever. I feel like I ought to go see him. So it's so much of what we do centers around relationships.
Yeah, it's a shepherding. It is a shepherding ministry, and that's what John's sort of a, what do you call it, a clearinghouse for, or you collate. Oh, that's a good word. I think that's a good word. You collate all of the different prayer lists in our church that come through email, social. Not through social media necessarily, but I guess one or two may be on social media, but by email, that kind of stuff. You kind of collate all that from different Sunday school classes and Bible studies, and kind of keep us all up to date as pastors on all these particular needs. That is a job in itself, just trying to keep up with who's not in the hospital anymore, who is in the hospital, who needs the prayer for this, who's dealing with cancer, who's a new person on our list, who fell and had surgery, who lost someone in their family. And it's just trying to coordinate not just the information, but then coordinate our efforts as pastors to make sure that we know about it and that somebody's taking care of it, somebody's responding to it in a shepherding kind of way.
And I think it's valuable every week We review that list. But I don't think it's an exaggeration to say every day in our pastor chat, we're talking about praying for so-and-so
Yeah.
or this has
Something new
happened,
comes
reaching
up
out
and
every
we
single
become
day.
aware of it,
Yeah.
and we share that with
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So very good communication, very very good collection of that information so that nobody falls through the cracks. I
Yeah,
mean,
so the
yeah,
pastor chat is not all jokes and memes.
right.
Not all.
There
of
are
There are
some
some.
things.
There are some of those,
Yeah.
but a lot of serious
I
things that are.
honestly, I think I've been pretty subdued in our pastor
You
chat.
really
I
have.
just
I'm extremely
trying to be
surprised
professional.
by that. I'm surprised by that.
Okay.
Really surprised by that. Now, a long time ago, I could say this now. A long time. Does he know this? Does
Who?
Larry Vaughn know? I don't know if he does.
Does Larry Vaughn have
But
the
when-
internet?
but
And
when
can he listen to this
can he
podcast?
listen to this?
We love Pastor
We love
Larry.
Pastor Larry. But when Pastor Larry was here, we had a different chat group. It was called the Anti No Nonsense, whatever.
Yeah. Let's
And-
just say he didn't appreciate
He-
all the time
he-
the sense of humor that some of the
Yeah.
rest of us enjoyed.
Yeah,
He
so
didn't
it was
want to deal with all
He's
the
got
junk.
it.
He didn't
Let
wanna
me
deal with
say,
the junk,
he
yes.
has a great sense of humor. For the
He does.
record,
He
he
does.
really does.
No, he does.
But he didn't always appreciate his phone blowing up
Right.
with things that
Yeah.
the rest of us would enjoy.
Yeah, so
looking
we kind of had to split our text messages to serious and then funny. But now we kind
It's
of have
merged.
combined all that, merged it, and so now it's all funny and serious all at the same time. But anyway, we got way off track. I'm
Well,
sorry.
even the title of our group chat is, in and of itself,
Oh, that was your
ignorant,
fault.
and it was totally my fault. It was a
But it's-
typo, but we kept it because it's so hilarious, Anyway,
It doesn't matter. Okay,
but you
so
do have
going
a good sense of humor, John, and you bring that to the team in so many
Yes.
ways. And one of the things I've appreciated with you is trash talk is part of your love language,
It is. Yeah.
and that's been good. Not everybody can do that, and to because we have a chance to test that and to receive those kind of things, and I've enjoyed that about you.
Sometimes
very much.
pastors in particular have a tendency to take themselves too seriously.
Mhm.
And as we said, what we do is serious, what we do is important, but we're not.
right.
Yeah.
And we ought not think of ourselves too highly.
Well, it
And
makes
so my job is to cut everybody down so that they don't do
Yes.
that.
And it makes it worth it when Pastor John is cutting people down,
Mhm.
having fun,
In love.
in love. He does all that, and then come Sunday morning, in the middle of the worship service, our worship pastor seats everybody. You may be
Mhm.
seated, and I look over there. Nikki looks over there and says, "John's still standing." John's the only one in a sea of people that's still standing
Last
up,
man
totally
standing.
oblivious
On
to
the
everybody.
front row.
On
Yes.
the front row. Everybody's looking at his bald head from behind. It's so funny. And finally, he looks at me, and Nikki and I are just in the middle of worship service, which is rare. We're dying out laughing
Mhm.
at him. And then, anyway. it's
I was
fun.
oblivious
I was
So
just
it's
looking straight at the
fun.
choir. They're still standing, and I thought we were going to roll into the next song. And I just glanced over my shoulder, and the entire congregation is seated, and they're
So much
laughing.
fun. It was so funny. It was so funny. So that was worth it just to see John Longworth.
Yeah.
When my wife
Way-
came down from the choir, she looked at me and said, "I'm glad you finally decided to sit
She
down."
saw it too, but couldn't
And
say
my
anything.
response was, "Well, apparently I don't get enough attention at home." So
Oh, it's so much fun. Oh, and I have to say, we're talking about pastoral care. Sorry,
Mm.
I got off on a tangent. But one of the things that John does quite a bit of that a lot of people may not know or appreciate as much is his work with our church members to do funerals.
Mhm.
our student pastor says I put the fun in funerals.
I've never heard that before. That's good. I need to.
We need to get
like
something
that.
to hang in your
Got the
office that
fun.
says exactly that.
I like
I
that.
put the fun in funeral.
Well, can I say? I will say this, and I'm going to say it with John in the room. I have never ever worked with anybody that has been as good, even it's not even close, have been as good at organizing, planning for, handling a funeral like John Longworth. He is so good and efficient
Yeah.
and organized. I'm impressed by that always. I've always been jealous I was never as good at that. I did what I needed to do, but I was not great at it doing funerals. I had expectations, but I've watched John do funerals. I don't know how many times now. We can't even
bunch.
count
Lot.
now. A lot of
bunch.
funerals, and he's so good with people, with families. But he's he's tender and pastoral, but at the same time, firm in this is the way it needs to be done. There are expectations here. He works with funeral homes in just a great way. It's just good. I mean, so any funeral that we're a part of here at GBC or off campus for GBC, and John is in charge, I have zero worries. None. Everything's going to go just right as planned.
So when
Families probably don't appreciate that as much as they should.
maybe so, but so you jumping into that role, did you have any hesitancy on those kinds of things? Because you probably didn't have a ton of experience organizing and kind of helping people through those end of life conversations and funerals and planning and.
Well, having worked with senior adults for several years prior to this, I was involved pretty significantly with a lot of funerals, but just preaching them and not necessarily leading through. And so working at different, having preached funerals at different churches or in funeral homes or even here, I saw often things that worked well, things that didn't work well. And so learned from that. You know, it's like watching anybody else in a leadership position or just being aware of what's going on around you. There are things to learn, things that are done correctly and things that you think, if I was ever responsible for that, this is what I would do.
I would do that
instead.
differently, yeah.
So,
Exactly.
So that's helped a lot. And
Well,
I agree with
you're a
you.
master at it. I mean, any funeral that I'm going to be a part of, I know John's in charge of it. I have no worries. Now, if he's not in charge of it, that is not the case. I've seen all kinds of funerals and things happen in funerals.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, stuff happen and things are not planned well and people are not in the right place and stuff go wrong with the order of things and all this kind of stuff, and it's just haywire. Not always, but it can be that way. I've seen it happen, but John is so organized and efficient, but at the same time pastoral in his approach to all that, very caring. It's really good.
This dovetails with our conversation with Ron, but it's part of the ethos of your leadership and the pastoral team in general. The church is the body of Christ. We're going to have standards of the gospel and the kingdom. This is not an event center. It's not a free for all when you come into the building. Jesus Christ is going to be the centerpiece of pretty much everything. And funerals are really tricky because you have a lot of sentimentality. I mean, obviously a loved one.
Yeah.
You got a lot of personal stuff, people telling stories, music that is meaningful, and to navigate all of those realities, but to say you got to recognize we're in the context of a local church. Jesus is going to be lifted up, and you do that really well. And I'm sure that at times has presented some pinch points to folks that wanted to do some interesting things, and they probably thought, well, how come we can't do that?
yeah. When I'm involved in a funeral, I always tell the family that I have two priorities. We certainly want to celebrate the individual and honor them and their legacy and the impact that they had on others. But most importantly, we're there to magnify Jesus and share the hope found in Christ alone. And we're going to share the gospel. So I'll often tell families that we're here to serve you, and we want to do as much as we can in accordance with your wishes. But at the same time, if you tell me your loved one, had an affinity for camels, and you wanted to, march a camel down the center aisle, I'm going to tell you that's probably not the best idea, and make some suggestions for things that we might be able to do differently.
Yeah.
And you try to do those things gracefully in a way that communicates your care and concern. But people get going through those seasons of life, they get all sorts of suggestions from well-meaning friends, family members, and that's one of those seasons where those opinions don't matter. What really matters is what's going to serve the family well and what's going to minister to them and how can we help them through that season. And having been there myself, I think situation I went through 8.5 years ago made me a better pastor. I knew what it was like to be on that side of things, and I knew what ministered to me and what didn't, what was
You're
helpful
talking
and
about
what was
losing
not.
your parents.
Yeah,
They're
and so
talking about.
having gone through that season, I think looking back, that was a little bit of a turning point for me, and I think I'm a better pastor now,
Yeah.
having come through the other side of that.
Yeah.
Well,
no doubt.
sensitivity around those issues is really critical. Understanding how to do those kind of things with kid gloves. I mean, because it's hard. You come to funerals, and people may not have thought through what they want to do in a funeral, and so when it comes to then having to, sometimes in a matter of a couple of days, they have to process and put together a funeral. The tendency is to want to do everything, include everything, play every song that Grandma loved, and play, have 3 different preachers and 4 people give testimonies from the family, and they want to do this and this.
2 hours later.
Yeah, and 2 hours later, and so
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just natural. It's natural. You want to honor that person because but John has that kind of sensitive role to be able to sit in the family and say, okay, but let me help you understand that the flow of things and the setting of a funeral, and he's just able to kind of walk. And I've been with him, watching him do this, walking a family through what's probably not the most proper thing to do, and what is the more proper thing to do, with consideration of time and scheduling and everything else. It's just a big thing, and that's a really sensitive thing. John's just really good at it. And then, of course, preaching funerals. If anybody's ever had a funeral that John's been a part of and led at GBC, I think everybody's been just highly pleased with what he does to try to help a family.
I told John
and
this.
it's a pastoral
It
thing.
is. I told John one of the sermons he preached. I can't remember whose funeral it was. I was there, and I was like, "That's the best funeral sermon I've ever heard. Can you send it to me?" And you did. And I remember the structure in my mind of the message, and I thought, man, that was fantastic. Like, how could I never see that before?
Yeah,
Kind of thing. But it was like incredible. It was perfect. And I'm curious that, from what you started out talking about, I'm going to need help figuring out how to do this pastoral care. It is interesting in our church context. We have Pastor Emeritus Dr. Ken Story here, and so beloved in our congregation. And a lot of people will choose Pastor Ken to do their funeral, or do you. Sometimes Senior Pastor Matt will do that as well. I think it's just important for our people to know that decision that doesn't hurt any of our feelings in how whoever you want to do this. That is meaningful to your family. It's intentional. We get it.
That's a good point.
Because they would think, well, is Pastor Matt going to be upset if I don't ask him to preach it? Well, no, he's not. He'd be honored, and if it worked out time-wise, schedule-wise to do that, he'd be honored. But it's not going to hurt his feelings, nor any of us.
Right.
And so, that's just interesting to watch in our own church culture.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people came through at kind of the height of Dr. Story's ministry.
Right.
And that's a strong relationship that resounds today.
Yeah, and he still preaches a number of funerals here.
Yeah,
he does. I got a couple questions, so we'll make this quick, and then we'll get into our final segment to close up.
Yeah.
What is your most rewarding thing about pastoral care, and what is the most difficult thing about pastoral care? Those are hard to answer, I know. Off the cuff. Most rewarding and most difficult thing about pastoral care.
I think the answer to both questions is the same.
I knew you were going to say that. I thought about that on
but
my way.
seriously, it is.
I really did. I thought you might. So go ahead.
We've been talking about funerals.
Yeah.
That's hard because you're dealing with people who are going through probably the most difficult season of life that they've ever faced. They're desperate. They're hurting. They're just the ache of losing a loved one. It's so incredibly hard.
Nobody's prepared for it.
Yeah, and how do you say or do anything really meaningful in that backing up a little bit, early in my ministry here, especially, we'd make hospital visits, and I would always want to be that guy who, you guys know I'm a planner, and so I'd always want to be prepared with the right answer. And it took me a while, but over time I began to realize that there are no easy answers, and the rote responses, the memorized stuff, those things don't matter. You just got to be real, be you.
That's right.
And be a tool that the Lord can use in the moment. And so yeah, a funeral can be the hardest thing that you do in trying to provide meaningful ministry to that family and communicate that you love them, you care, that as a church we're here for them. And I can't tell you how many times I've cried with somebody over the phone, or I get off the phone and my wife is watching me crying because of a conversation I've had with somebody that's really struggling with that. So for that reason, it's really hard, and it takes a lot out of you, spiritually and emotionally, and but it's also one of the most rewarding things I do, and I love the fact that I can sit across the table from somebody. One of the things I do in preparing for the funerals that I preach is to sit down with the family, 2 or 3 family members, or however many they want to get together, but I'll ask them questions about the loved one. And
this is
and
gold,
try to
by the
build-
way.
It is.
Every young pastor needs to listen to this.
Yep.
Needs to take this as advice on how to do this well. Sorry, I'm interrupting, but this is gold.
Agree.
But I try to find out as much as I can and weave in their stories. You know, we talk about an obituary. It has the date of birth and the date of death and significant accomplishments and people that preceded them in death and those that remain and, you know, all those things. But that doesn't capture the essence of who somebody is, their character and who they were in Christ. So I'll ask questions about their faith. What did they enjoy doing? What made them tick? You know, and just try to get to know. If I don't already, most of the time I know much about them, but I want to hear from the family. What was important to them? What did they see? How did this person demonstrate their faith?
Yeah.
So that we're capturing some of those, because their faith is the reason we can call it a celebration of life. There's something to celebrate. That's where, you know, it is okay to smile and occasionally, you know, laugh.
Yeah.
So I'll spend time with them, and that's why we have what in my sermons or my funerals will typically have that personal section where we talk about the individual. But then there's a section where you may mention the individual a time or two, but it's all scripture and it's all gospel, and it points to the Lord. And the reason I do that is because one of my probably my first funeral here as a staff member, I got called in as the recreation guy, was asked to do a funeral. I thought, well, okay, I guess it's part of my job, part of my ministry. I didn't know the person. So I'm at a funeral home. I preach this funeral. And after the funeral, a sweet little lady comes up to me and puts her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Pastor John, you didn't know him, did you?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm sorry, I did
Was it
not."
that obvious?
I thought about it. It must have been that obvious. And from that point, I thought, if I don't already know this person, I'm going to find out as much as I can about them so that we can celebrate, especially if they're a believer, if they're a Christian.
That's why.
We celebrate who they are in Christ.
Yeah.
So that's a lesson I learned from blowing it early on.
I will say another untapped resource maybe for some people. I mean, we do have counseling here, but I always hem up Pastor Matt. You know, it's interesting, our relationship organizationally, but we also have a friendship. But there are sometimes I need to have some counsel about some things. It could be work related, could be personal. But I take advantage of our relationship as well, John. And I respect you because obviously you are a wise person. You're a great listener.
What?
And and you ask the right questions that kind of keep that moment of whatever I'm wrestling with. You're engaged in that, and that's pastoral care to pastors, and not a lot of people can do that, and so I appreciate that, and I get that from both of y'all. So I think that's pretty amazing. But you know, if some other guys don't recognize that, dang,
Yeah, I know.
they
I
need to
know.
get into that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm fortunate to have served with a lot of wise people in the past and learned from their mistakes, my mistakes, learned from things that they've done well, and I've just been fortunate to have been here for as long as I have. Don't know why the church has put up with me for as long as
You're
they
a
have,
relic,
but I
John.
am.
Okay.
He's also the tallest pastor.
He is the oldest and the tallest.
The oldest and the tallest.
You are past. You're taller than Hunter, aren't you?
Yeah, and Josh.
Just
So
barely.
barely
Just
taller than Hunter.
Yeah.
I would say I'm the shortest, but that's not true.
That's not true. That's not true.
I usually always have that achievement.
Yes. Well, Pastor John, you are loved at Germantown
Yes,
Baptist Church,
absolutely.
and for all those who are not connected to GBC, you should be. You should be.
Yeah.
John is a blessing to all of us. All right, let's get to our last final section of the podcast. This is the fun part. Okay, fun part. As if
Like
the
we
other
did
part
with
wasn't
Ron.
fun. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's called the Final Four. So we got 4 questions that we're going to ask you 2. I'm going to ask 2. He's going to ask, and these are just off topic, off the top of the dome. Ready? Let me go first.
Go ahead.
All right. What is your? He's a big planner. Takes vacations, and he's been planning for a year ahead of time. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Bucket list vacation.
I'd love to go on an Antarctic expedition.
Are you kidding?
Nope.
Like backpacking out in the cold.
Like
Well,
to see
a
penguins and
cruise.
stuff.
A cruise.
Yeah.
A cruise.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he's like
But
backpack out in the Antarctic for 3 months. or something.
interesting piece of trivia. Okay. Metallica is one of the only bands to play on every continent and have a concert on every, including Antarctica.
Okay, I did not know that.
Anyways, but you go see
Sometime.
penguins. You go see.
See, I could knock 2 continents off my list there.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Add to my list of countries I've been to.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All right. Good.
A cruise, but kind of a cruise and expedition. Kind
Yes.
Okay.
of. Interesting. All right. Let's say as you were en route to this dream vacation and you crashed on an island in the Pacific Ocean, and you only had
On the way to Antarctica.
Yes. I don't know
Dude don't know
geography.
his geography,
I'm a
do he?
preacher. Whatever ocean it is that
Look, I don't know either.
I don't know.
Whatever. It's out there somewhere. It's a long
It's
way
not
off.
close to Mississippi, though, is it?
No.
No, it ain't.
Not even close.
But if you're stranded on a desert island, and you only had like one outside of the Bible, one book
Ooh.
that I'm gonna be dealing with this book, for the rest of until I get rescued or whatever, maybe until I croak. What would that book be? Maybe it's a way of asking what book has influenced you the most.
That's hard.
It
That's
is.
a really hard question. Wait a minute. While
Yes.
you're, do you have an answer?
Sort of, but no, go ahead. Buy
What
me
is
some time.
yours? What's your answer? Because I'm curious.
I think I'd probably. I think more in terms of authors. If I had
Okay.
any book from, say, Jared Wilson or something, I'd be content with that.
Okay.
Spurgeon,
Mhm.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious.
That's a
hard-
really tough question. It's kind of an unfair question.
Well, it is.
but-
But do you have one now? I stalled
I
long
was, no, I
enough.
was going to say if I gave a more spiritual or religious type of answer,
That's what
I'd
we're
probably
expected here on
say
the Gospel
I'd
Rain
probably
podcast.
say Bonhoeffer. It'd give me plenty
Okay,
of
yeah.
time to try to figure out what this
Sure.
means and
Yeah. yeah.
wrestle with things.
Yeah.
But if I'm being honest, probably something like a Tom Clancy novel
Yeah.
that I could just enjoy.
Come on.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with
Here
you.
we go. Question number 3.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most famous person you've ever met?
I have met President George H.W. Bush and Brooke Shields.
No way.
And,
You met
all
Brooke
sorts of people.
Shields?
You got to keep
Huh.
in mind, though, having worked in broadcast television news, I got to
That's
interact with some
right.
Yeah.
senators, congressmen,
Mm.
representatives.
Okay. I'm impressed. Brooke Shields.
Yeah,
You met Brooke Shields.
I did.
Okay. All right.
And
Okay.
Our
Wow.
faces were like this far apart in a
Wow.
restaurant.
That's incredible.
And where you going?
No, no, Sandra, I was not.
That's a good clarification. Final question.
Hurry up.
Final
Hurry
question. And this is such a good question for you. So easy. What's it like to be a new grandfather? Tell us about being James's papa.
Yeah, it's incredible. I have done a lot in my life that's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of titles through the years, but Papa John is the best title in the world, and I would do anything for that little fella.
Oh,
Yeah.
He is incredible. Being a grandfather is the best, without question.
And he's close by, so you get to see him pretty frequently.
Yeah, weekly, if not more often.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's great.
Man, we're going to get there someday, Pastor.
We might one day.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
In the right order.
Yeah.
Nason,
Yeah.
and Benjamin, if y'all are listening, in the right order.
That's right. That's right.
No, that's exciting. We've had the opportunity to come alongside you and watch you walk through this process and pray through all of that to see James come into the world. And man, we're just really happy for you and excited for you in that,
Yeah, it's been
for your
fun.
family.
It's a fun season.
I
Yeah.
bet it is. We love you, John. We love you,
Yes,
John.
we do.
Germantown Baptist Church loves you. Appreciate you. Anyway, this has been a great discussion.
Love it.
Thanks for coming on and being nervous.
No, thanks for having me. You know this. I love this church. I
know
love
you
the
do.
people.
No, you
I
didn't.
love our staff, and what an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's good.
20 more years to go, John. So
Yeah,
buckle
working
in.
on it.
Got a long
Buckle
way to
in.
go. All right, it's been the Gospel Rain podcast. Enjoyed it. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Gospel Rain. Find us online at germantownbaptist.org/Gospel Rain for more information and a full list of our episodes. We hope you'll join us for another conversation next week on Gospel Rain.